Please stand for a moment of silence to honor the memory of the 19 students and 2 teachers that were killed in an act of senseless violence at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Garza, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Chair Seabrook.
Here.
Vice Chair Stevens.
Here.
Mrs. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Hollingsworth.
Here.
Mrs. Brooks.
Here.
Mrs. Spall.
Here.
Mr. Iqbal.
Here.
Thank you.
Mr. Gaffeller, are there any additions and deletions to the agenda tonight?
Yes, Chair Seberg, I would request that the following be deleted from the agenda. A closed session discussion of the superintendent's evaluation for school year 2021-22.
Thank you. Superintendent's announcements and spotlights. Mrs. Radford.
Good evening to other members of the board, and definitely good evening to everyone that has joined us here tonight. I'm standing before you to share a very exciting spotlight. We've had an exciting season for the Osborne High School boys soccer team. You can see that they are Eagle strong over here to my left, so we are very honored and ecstatic to have them with us tonight. To help me with this presentation, to talk about the amazing season that they've had, I have just on Monday, this is, really great news. Just on Monday, we have a new Class 6 Region B Coach of the Year, Brandon Calandra. So we'll let him come down and really tell you all the details from, the regular season until the postseason, all the great things that happened with the team. All right.
Thank you. On behalf of the boys soccer team, I'd like to thank the school board for recognizing us tonight, taking the time out of your busy schedule. Really appreciate it. Also need to thank Dr. Newman, Mr. DeGroot, and Mr. Fugrath for all their help and support throughout the season. I also need to give a huge thanks to our maintenance staff here at Osborne, or actually in the whole city of Division, for coming out and helping us set up a new season, or a new field for our postseason play. I know that wasn't easy based on what we had available, but I definitely really appreciate that we actually got to host postseason play, and I know the boys definitely did as well. Lastly, but certainly not least, I'd also like to just thank the whole entire community of Manassas and our school community as well. The passion that they showed off the field for us definitely resonated with our boys and our play on the field. It was something to see, just to see how many people came out to watch us play. It's not something you see at any other school, to be honest. These boys, I don't know, well, I know they know how good they have it here at Osborne and in the city of Manassas, and we couldn't appreciate that anymore from all you people out here. With that being said, we set high expectations this year. We knew we had a good team, but we've had a lot of talent in years past, and we may not have produced the same results by the end of the year. But this team was a little different. We preached hard work, deeds, and these boys not only did it, but they did it consistently, which made a difference. And I think that lesson that we learned throughout the season really helped and kind of got us over that hump that we've been looking to get to. That hump being that we secured the district championship for back-to-back years. We qualified for states for the first time in 14 years. We won the Region B championship for the first time in 34 years. Makes me feel young because I wasn't even born yet. And that was with a combined record of 17 wins, 1 loss, and 4 ties. So I, to be honest, I can't be any more prouder of this group of boys. They're really great, just not even on the field, but off the field as well. Definitely proud to represent Osborne, this community. And we thank you guys for having us here tonight and honoring us. Appreciate it.
We're going to calm everybody down and we can take a picture with the board. Yeah. We're going to have the team come down so we can take a picture with the board, if that's okay, Chair Seberg? Is it okay? Yeah. So we'll just get everybody to just kind of stand over here in this corner. The board members will come down and okay. You'll just have to kind of short people up front. Yeah, you can sit on the steps here, but I have to make sure I can see everybody. Some of you may have to kneel or something so we can get everybody in there. Yeah, yeah, some can squat. Yeah, that's good. I see Mr. Flugraf. You may have to, yeah. I know, yeah, okay. Oh, be careful. Push the seat, just put your seat on. Yeah, okay. Let's see. I'll just have to go high a little bit, I think. Okay. Yep, I see everybody. Here we go. This way. Go Eagles. 1, 2, 3. Let's do one more. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Let's see. Yes. Congratulations on an amazing season. That concludes my time for spotlights tonight, Chair Seberg.
Also tonight on our superintendent spotlights is our LGBTQ Proclamation. This proclamation was part of a motion that was made by Mr. Carl Hollingsworth and seconded by Mrs. Christina Brooks and approved by the board at last month's meeting. So during that time, we approved the Manassas City Public Schools LGBTQ plus Pride Proclamation. Whereas Manassas City Public Schools is committed to creating an inclusive, safe, caring, and challenging learning environment viewed through an equity lens. And whereas the City of Manassas recognizes the importance of quality and freedom. And whereas the Manassas City Council has adopted a Pride Proclamation annually since 2017. And whereas the Commonwealth of Virginia passed the Virginia Values Act, prohibiting discrimination in public places against members of the LGBTQ community. And whereas the Human Rights Campaign believes that LGBTQ individuals must be ensured equality and embraced as full members of society. And whereas the National Institutes of Health and National Education Association recognize that LGBTQ plus youth and teens are at an increased risk of violence, discrimination, and have higher suicide rates. And whereas the National School Boards Association believes that education is a civil right, and whereas the NSBA believes no student should be discriminated against based on characteristics, including gender identity. And whereas the Manassas City Public Schools are an integral part of the greater Manassas City community. And whereas the staff of Manassas City Public Schools are valued community members. And whereas it is imperative that students and staff alike, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity, feel valued, safe, empowered, and supported by their peers, educators, and community leaders. Now, therefore, the City of Manassas School Board proclaims June 2022 to be LGBTQ plus Pride Month and urges our citizens and community members to recognize the value of and contributions made by LGBTQ staff and our students, and actively promote the principles of equality and liberty. Be it further proclaimed that the Manassas City School Board urges all to respect and honor our diverse community and celebrate and build a culture of inclusivity and equity, both during Pride Month and the rest of the year. For the Manassas City School Board. Thank you. I would like to acknowledge some dignitaries in the audience tonight. We have Mayor Michelle Davis Younger here, and Councilman Tom Osina. Thank you for being here. Okay. We don't have any, do we have any board committee reports this evening? Nope. Coming up soon, we will. Okay, no citizens have signed up to speak tonight. Is there anyone at all that would like to speak? Seeing and hearing none, we will move on in our agenda. May I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the School Board of the City of Manassas approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Ms. Chair, as amended. As amended.
As amended. Are you amenable to that amendment?
I am.
I have a motion by Mrs. Spall, seconded by Mrs. Brooks, that the School Board of the City of Manassas approve the consent agenda as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Moving along to tonight's discussion agenda. We have new business tonight. Student representatives for the 2022-23 school year. Mrs. Williams, would you like to present?
Yes, thank you. And I just wanted to make sure our minutes were correct. That's the only reason
Yes.
why I corrected that. In our consent agenda, we approved 2 student representatives for the 2022-2023 school year. And we had 6 very well qualified applicants, which always makes me proud that so many of our students do want to take a role in being the voice for their student bodies and all of our schools as a whole. We have chosen Miss Danielle DeBeepy. I always call her Miss DeBeepy. We asked her to return, and she submitted the application, and we approved her. And we also approved a rising junior, Miss Elisa Island. And we want to welcome you, and you will begin your representation to the school board August 23rd at our August 23rd meeting. So you'll be up here then. So congratulations, thank you. I do want to share that the applicants have been invited to participate in the Superintendent's Advisory Board, which is also a fantastic opportunity for them. Again, thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you, Mrs. Williams, for leading the efforts for our student representatives, and for Mrs. Spall for helping her out. And congratulations to Miss DeBeepy and Miss Island. Is Miss Island here tonight? Oh, do you guys want to come up and say something? Just hello? How about your name, your grade, and what your next move is?
So my name's Alicia. I'm a rising junior. I just wanted to say hi and thank you for allowing me to be your student representative this year. Have a nice night. Also,
Thank you, Alicia.
Good job, thank you.
Mrs. DeBeepy, Ms. DeBeepy, would you like to say hello?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Danielle DeBeepy, and I'm a rising senior this year. I would just like to thank you guys for allowing me to be the student representative for the 2nd year in a row, and I hope we have the same experience we've had before.
That's great.
Thank you.
Good luck in your senior year. Next up on our discussion agenda is the draft 2022 to 2027 strategic plan. And
Chair Seberg, if I could just, before they present, I just want to introduce a new member of our team who will be presenting tonight, the strategic plan. Dr. Casado joined us on May 9th. She joined our office. She brings over 20 years of experience to the position in Virginia schools. Most recently, she served as the Director of Research, Accountability, Strategic Planning in Prince William County. She was responsible for key strategic, data-driven problem-solving support for division and school leadership. She and her team were responsible for strategic planning, testing, program evaluation, data analysis, reporting, and records management. She earned a PhD in educational psychology from the University of Iowa and holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from Wesleyan University. And so we are excited to have her join our team here in Manassas City, and so I wanted to introduce her to you before we present the strategic plan draft to the board. She joins her colleague, Dr. Goldsung, who has led the strategic planning process since the beginning, and now they are jointly working on this to bring it to fruition for Manassas City Schools. So I just wanted to take a minute to introduce her to the board.
Well, welcome, Dr. Casada, and hello to Dr. Goldsung.
Well, good evening. Chair Seberg, Vice Chair Stevens, school board members, Mr. Gefeller, it is my pleasure to be here to share with you the strategic plan that was developed by a dedicated team over the last 10 months. This work was facilitated and mentored by Dr. Wayne Harris and Dr. Kevin Kastner of Cambridge Analytics. In August of 2021, we began our development efforts with a presentation to the school board by Drs. Harris and Kastner, outlining the process that we would follow to articulate our aspirations and goals for our school community and outline objectives and strategies for meeting those goals by 2027. In September, we shared the process with our community. During this meeting, and subsequently using an online platform, we asked our people in our community to share their deepest hopes and dreams for our schools. We also asked what programming and traditions that they would stop, start, and continue. We received over 100 responses from across our community that were shared with the Strategic Planning Committee during the 3-day retreat in October of 2021. During the 3-day retreat, 45 members of our school community formed the Strategic Planning Committee. Manassas City is a close-knit community. There are so many members of our team, and they represented multiple stakeholder groups and points of view. That, for example, we had teachers who were also parents of Manassas City students. We had Manassas City employees that are community leaders for nonprofit groups, Boy Scout leaders, and leaders in our faith communities. We had a small business owner. We had representation from Micron and our Education Foundation. And of course, we welcomed and valued student voice. During the retreat, Drs. Kastner and Harris facilitated our group through a variety of protocols designed to assist us in identifying our values, our beliefs, related to the work of Manassas City Public Schools. We articulated our vision and mission for this organization, and we outlined specific goals and objectives that we want to accomplish over the next 5 years. Starting in November, the work of identifying objectives and strategies and plans was put into action. The action planning teams were comprised of additional members of our school community, of parents and additional stakeholders. Anyone who wanted to participate was welcome and encouraged to join. I want to just take a minute to recognize our leaders who were the driving force behind this collaborative process. Ms. Heather James led discussion and action planning for academic achievement. Ms. Carrie Pendleton led discussion and action for learning environments and inclusive practices. Ms. Katie Keegan, who's here, she led discussion and action planning for human resources and the development of a quality workforce. Ms. Shema Bautista, she led our discussion and action planning for parent engagement and community relations. And Dr. Monique Cowell, she led discussion and action planning related to social emotional learning and creating a caring community of support for our students. In April of 2022, the work of those action planning teams was presented back to the Strategic Planning Committee and then handed over to our superintendent, Dr. Newman, and his executive cabinet for additional edits, revisions, and preparation for consideration by you, our school board. This presentation and plan is the product of a 10-month collaboration. It is the result of nearly 1,800 hours of work by at least 77 members of our community. It is a reflection of our hope for the future for all Manassas City students. The strategic planning process produced a set of powerful statements, our beliefs, that will serve as our guiding principles for this strategic plan and the day-to-day work that is the evidence of our commitment to our stated goals. We believe that excellence in education is paramount to the success of the city of Manassas. The Strategic Planning Committee envisions a school division where each student will graduate prepared to be a member of our global community. To that end, as a community, we must act as architects of achievement who will design learning opportunities that will support all students in realizing their fullest potential. In May of 2022, May the 9th, 2022, we welcomed Dr. Jennifer Casada to our school division and strategic planning team. Dr. Casada has created a conceptual framework for organizing and communicating the work of the strategic planning team. This conceptual framework, or a metaphor, provides a structure for understanding how we are all connected to the essential to supporting the goal of increased student achievement. It is my pleasure to turn this podium over to Dr. Casada, where she can further explain the plan.
All right, good evening, Chair Seberg, Vice Chair Stevens, school board members, and Mr. Gefeller. It is truly my pleasure and honor to present the new strategic plan to you tonight as my first presentation to this school board. As Mr. Gefeller mentioned, I've been with MCPS for just over a month and came here from Prince William County Public Schools, where I spent close to 17 years. I worked to help Dr. McDade launch the new strategic plan for PWCS this past fall, and I'm excited to do the same thing here. Dr. Goldsung just took you on the journey that has been the development of this new plan. I came in at the tail end of this work of so many people, and it's been a privilege to pull everything together for you tonight and set the foundation for the future. The basic premise of this new strategic plan is that Manassas City Public Schools is building a foundation for the future of our students with a primary focus on student academic success. The Strategic Plan Committee has identified multiple pillars that embody the beliefs you just heard and that are necessary to accomplish this work and the vision and mission that has been shared with you. I'm now going to walk you through the key components of this strategic plan. 4 foundational pillars have been identified. Later in the presentation, I will explain each in more detail. The pillars are, first, inclusive and collaborative learning environment. The second is a culture of caring. The third is quality workforce. And the fourth is strong family and community partnerships. As I said, we'll go through each one in detail. All 4 of these pillars are required to support the work necessary to achieve student academic success, which is, of course, our ultimate purpose. The Strategic Planning Committees define student academic success through 2 main goal statements. First, that our students will graduate on time with boundless opportunities. And second, that MCPS graduates will be critical and creative thinkers, collaborators, communicators, and contributors to our interdependent global community. These statements reflect the commitments that MCPS is making to our students. One, that not only will they graduate, but that they will be prepared to take advantage of multiple opportunities, continued education, the workforce, etc., Also, the commitment is that students will also develop those 4 C skills necessary to flourish in the global community. This slide just captures those key goals and commitments in a different format. All right, the next logical question is, how will we know if we are meeting these broad goals? How are we tracking academic success throughout the K-12 experience? This slide shows some key performance indicators in this area. First, we'll track graduation rates and enrollment in post-secondary education. Second, we'll track student performance on the Virginia Standards of Learning assessments by subject and by student group. Connected to that, we'll track accreditation indicators for each school, which include both proficiency and growth targets. And we will look at student engagement to include measures of absenteeism and dropout rates, as those are also part of the accreditation system. But beyond the SOLs and accreditation, we'll look at early literacy measures for our students in grades K through 2. For our high school students, we'll look at how we're preparing our students to thrive in challenging situations by looking at how they're earning advanced placement or dual enrollment credit, and or by earning career and technical education credentials. Any of these help our students get a jump start on the world post-graduation. And finally, we must track how our English learners are making progress with their English proficiency. The next section of the presentation provides, I'm clicking a little too fast, sorry. The next section, it's a different clicker. The next section of the presentation provides more detail about each of the 4 foundational pillars that support student academic success. Each pillar includes an objective and a set of strategic priorities that were developed by the planning committees. The first pillar is inclusive and collaborative learning environment, and the objective states, each student will feel safe and supported in an interactive, innovative, and equitable learning environment where individual assets are valued and respected. The strategic priorities are the instructional priorities that have been identified for the division, and they include inclusive practices, a cycle that works, which is our approach for living out professional learning communities in our schools, a focus on literacy, and instructional planning and delivery. Aligning the entire division around these priorities is the first step in the implementation of the strategic plan. All right, the second pillar is culture of caring. It is critical that our schools provide not just strong learning environments, but also a culture that supports both students and staff. The objective here is that each student will be equipped to utilize resources and supports, ensuring their social, emotional, and physical health. The priorities here include tiered systems of behavioral support for students, as well as empowering students to utilize mental health and other support resources. These past 2 years have taught us that it is important to support the whole child, and for students to not only be provided with resources, but to become empowered to seek and utilize them themselves. The third pillar is a quality workforce. Research tells us that the single most important factor in student success is the quality instruction provided by the classroom teacher. So the objective here is that each student will benefit from diverse, high-quality educators who are held accountable for making data-informed decisions and implementing best practices. And what are the strategic priorities? First, recruitment efforts, seeking out the best educators for all of our students. Second, building a coherent system of professional development. Recall the priorities under the first pillar. Coherent professional development is underway and upcoming to support the implementation of all of those priorities. And finally, accountability for professional growth. Teachers, leaders, and support staff, everyone must continue to grow in their skills. The final pillar is strong family and community partnerships. None of the work to build student academic success can be done alone. It takes staff, families, and the entire community. So the objective here is that each student will be part of a system that is aimed at building relationships with families, community businesses, and agencies who support their academic and personal goals. Strategic priorities in this area are strengthening community work-based learning opportunities. This would include partnering with local businesses to provide opportunities for students to gain work experience. Parent engagement initiatives, expanding opportunities for parents and families to be involved in multiple and meaningful ways in their children's education. And clear and transparent communication. Strong partnerships are dependent upon clear and open lines of communication. Now, in order for MCPS to fulfill the promises in each of the pillars, we must also provide a strong foundation. This means that the supports provided by MCPS as a whole must be aligned. You'll see in this graphic that each pillar is not supported by its own base, but rather one solid base that supports all of the pillars as well as student academic progress. This solid, aligned, cohesive base provides a much stronger foundation upon which student academic success can be built. Resources and services across MCPS must work together in support of each of the pillars that form this foundation. The departments of student achievement and student services, for example, must work together, and they must work in concert with human resources and finance and operations. The supports and resources provided to schools should be perceived by schools as seamless and aligned rather than as coming from independent offices. So this slide shows you a summary graphic that includes all of these key components supporting student academic success. Obviously, without anything at the bottom, the student academic success cannot occur. And each piece is essential in accomplishing our goals. So speaking of goals, MCPS is setting some aspirational targets for this 5-year strategic plan. You see some numbers on these columns. The first, 93%, represents the target for an on-time graduation rate. This target is based on the current state average for on-time graduation. The goal is for MCPS to match or exceed that target. The next, 80%, represents the target for students meeting literacy benchmarks as measured by PALS by the end of 2nd grade. This target was established by looking at both current and pre-pandemic numbers. The second 80% target represents the target for students passing reading and mathematics standards of learning assessments. This target was established by examining pre-pandemic trends of both MCPS and the state. And finally, the 100% is the target for having all schools accredited by the Virginia Department of Education with no conditions. I know that's a mouthful. Think in the past of fully accredited. The accreditation system includes measures of academic performance in English, mathematics, and science for all students as well as for student groups, and it also includes student engagement measures. The key performance indicators referenced earlier, along with other metrics, will provide annual information about the progress MCPS is making toward accomplishing these targets and our stated vision and mission. So what comes next? Here we go. This presentation, along with a 2-page summary version of the strategic plan, are going to be available on the MCPS website for the public. After tonight, the next step is a public hearing to be held on June 28th in connection with the regular board meeting. This would provide members of the public with the opportunity to make comments on the strategic plan. The intent is for the school board to vote on this plan on July 12th. Once approved, the next step, and this is where it gets really exciting, is the development of a aligned system of continuous improvement planning for all schools and central departments. The next slide includes a graphic showing how these systems will be aligned. In October, the school board will receive a presentation on 21-22 year-end data. And finally, quarterly during 22-23 and beyond, the school board will receive presentations on the individual pillars of the strategic plan, which will include updates on the implementation of the various strategic priorities. This slide details the continuous improvement planning alignment that was mentioned on the previous slide. The new strategic plan would provide an overall framework and roadmap for MCPS for the next 5 years. So that's just 5 years. So annually, schools and departments will then be developing continuous improvement plans that detail out their yearly initiatives and efforts in support of the strategic plan, pillars, and goals. First, to talk about departments, they will develop and implement annual action plans for the strategic priorities identified in the plan, which then translate into individual goals and professional development plans for central office staff members. At the schools, the annual continuous improvement plans will align with this strategic plan and Virginia Department of Education planning requirements. School plans are then used as the basis for department or team or even grade level plans, action plans for the given year, which then again translate into individual goals and professional development plans for teachers, administrators, and other staff. As articulated as one of the beliefs shared earlier in the presentation, all Manassas City Public Schools employees are educators. As such, all of our work must be in service to the vision and mission and in support of student academic success. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share this draft strategic plan with you tonight. As Dr. Goldsong mentioned, this plan represents the work of many people working many, many hours. I firmly believe that the 4 pillars of this plan, buoyed by the aligned foundational supports, will help MCPS foster student academic success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Casada. I'm excited. And I do hope that we do hear from the public on this while this is out. And thank you. Will you please thank the committee for us?
Yes, we will.
Thank you. I saw lots of writing up here. Any questions or comments from the board at this time?
I do.
Mrs. Stevens?
Thank you, Dr. Casada and Dr. Goldsong. This is an amazing plan you've put before us. We were just talking about when we were going to be getting an update probably a few weeks ago, so thank you. This is very timely. Can we go to slide, I believe it's slide 17, next steps? There
Yes,
we go.
ma'am.
You've got June 28th, July 12th. Then you've got summer, development of a line system for continuous improvement planning for schools and departments. Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
Sure. So schools are used to doing annual continuous improvement plans or school improvement plans. I prefer the phrase continuous improvement plan because it's everyone's job, no matter even if you're achieving the goals you set, everyone can always get better, right? So continuous improvement planning process. Schools are required by Virginia Code to do one of those annually. So we want to develop a seamless process for schools that is aligned with the state expectations, but is also aligned with this 5-year vision, right? And so this will set the stage, and schools can then take division goals, import them, for lack of a better word, into their own plans and use those to set the stage. So because we're starting a new strategic plan, we want to take stock and align and have everybody working with the same template, for lack of a better phrase. And then for departments, and this is newer, right, doing the same thing. So the committees, as the development of the strategic plan was occurring, developed the beginning parts of action plans. So what really that work falls mainly on the central office folks supporting the schools. So those will be turned into the foundation of department plans, where again, they take the division goals and translate them down as what does that mean in instruction? What does that mean in transportation in order to help us get where we want to go in 2027? And so a lot of that then becomes the implementation work for all of those strategies. We laid out things, even think about the family engagement, right? Over the course of the year, there'd be work done to articulate the plan for what that looks like. What are some tangible things that you can see, that the public can see, that we'll be able to report at those quarterly reports, or here's the things that are happening. That work will get done through department and school plans. So if this is the roadmap, those plans are kind of the vehicle for making that happen. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. So basically, this is the roadmap. We're giving it to our departments, and they're sort of putting it together and starting the next steps. And then as we do those quarterly reviews during 2022-23, we'll be, well, not us necessarily, but our departments will be examining progress and adjusting what we're doing based on what that progress looks like.
That is a perfect summary. And so same thing that the schools will do, like with quarterly, what we call progress monitoring, right? For them to look, just like we look at individual students along the way, it's the same kind of thing. So the process that we're proposing will be requiring ongoing progress monitoring to check to see, is this working? You heard Dr. Goldson talk about folks at the beginning of this identifying what did we want to start, stop, or continue. That's what this process will engage in on a regular and ongoing basis. The goal is for a continuous improvement plan to just be that, continuous, and not be a document that someone creates and that sits on a shelf and then isn't looked at again until the next year when you have to do it again. We've all been there, we've all been involved with plans like that, but this is to turn everything dynamic, and it's essential, right, if we have an aligned foundation that the departments are doing the same thing that the schools are doing, right, even though what the implementation is going to look a little different, but the process is the same.
And then I always have questions. I'm sorry to do that to you.
It's fine.
You'll get used to it. I did have a question on, let me go back to the slide that was talking about English language learners showing progress. It would be slide 9. Percentage of English language learners demonstrating progress with English proficiency. Have we established, or is there a gold standard for what that number might want to look like?
So that's a great question also. So the federal government and the state identify annual progress and proficiency targets that they set for English learners in terms of benchmarks, if you would, and those change each year. And so there's a target both in terms of how those students are performing on the SOL assessments, right, but also how are they progressing with their English development. So they set a standard that increases each year of what percentage of the students show the requisite level of growth. And that level of growth that's expected depends on a combination of the grade level of the student as well as their English proficiency level. So there's more than one number to answer the question, but those are set, and we would use those, the federal targets, that are part of that as the benchmark for English language proficiency.
Okay, thank you. No, that's a really important thing to know. That's one of those things that stuck out to me because we do have a very high percentage of English language learners, and their growth is important, but their growth may not always look like growth of our non-English language learners. So that, to me, that was a very important thing. And then if we can, and this is the last thing I'm going to bother you with, I think is go to slide number 4, looking at the bullet points. And I just wanted to point out that it's very interesting. We just had the LGBTQ Proclamation that was read this evening. And now we're looking at this, and it really seems to me, in looking at like our first 3 bullet points, how they really blend well with that LGBTQ Proclamation. They fit well together, that we're working with this goal of recognizing each student for who they are and that the value they have in them for who they are. And so I thought that was really a very interesting thing, and it kind of made me happy to see that we're already naturally doing things that we need to do to be in line with this strategic plan. So, but thank you. This was a great presentation. I'm sure we'll all have more questions the next time you're here. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board at this time? Robin, did you?
Yes, I do have a comment. I want to thank, welcome
Thank you.
Dr. Gonzaga. Thank you very much for your hard work in leading this challenge. We have done several long-term strategic plans over the years, and so I always appreciate the hard work everybody puts involved. I appreciate that you reached out to the community to get their input. I know that this is just a shell per se, and that the real work is about to begin, and I'm excited to see and follow that through. What I did notice in your presentation is the background of the blue sky and the white clouds. And in my view, when I saw that, the sky's the limit. And I love that. So thank you very much for all your hard work.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Anyone else? No. Mrs. Spall?
Yes, being new to the process, I would also like to welcome Dr. Quesada. I appreciate, that our last pillar is strong community and family partnerships, and that's probably the area that I'm, most familiar. I think that the beliefs that you came up with, very much align with what I would have liked to have seen. But I always do worry, with 100 people that participated. I'm very hopeful that we do have very specific metrics to measure success in the area of parent participation and community participation. So I'll look forward to seeing those. That's the biggest thing that I think I'm excited about. Thank you, though.
Well, thank you again for your presentation, Dr. Quesada, and we look forward to, I'm sure we'll be visiting this and discussing it over the next few weeks, and we will let you know what our questions are.
Thank you so much.
And again, I want to say to the community, I do hope that you will take a look at this and give us some feedback. That's what it's out there for. Thank you. Next up on our discussion agenda is student achievement, the virtual learning option for the 2022-23 school year. Mr. Gefeller.
Thank you, Chair Seberg, Vice Chair Stevens. Members of the board, I wanted to provide an update regarding the virtual option. On March 15th, we presented a plan to the academic committee, which they approved in regards to offering virtual instruction for students in the 22-23 school year. We had said at that time that we would offer Virtual Virginia as an option for students for next school year. But we would limit it to students who had good attendance, had a strong academic standing, a C or a better in all courses, or if students had a health concern for themselves or someone in their home, that we would offer virtual instruction. We also, at the time, added that it would also be dependent upon our budget. And we presented to the school board on March 22nd at that, the plan, and that's how we had agreed to proceed in terms of offering virtual instruction to our students for next school year for those students who did not want to return in person. Since that time, We currently do not have an adopted budget from the state of Virginia. And that has made it very difficult to plan. So our plan moving forward, because we still do not have final information with what our funding will be from the state, and given that the deadline for registering students for Virtual Virginia is fast approaching in early July. Given the fact that our counselors who are in charge of, have been ushering this effort in terms of registering, in terms of getting the word out, if we were going to continue, it would pose, I think, some difficulties. So we are proposing that we not offer virtual instruction to students unless they have a medical reason and that they would provide documentation for that. Currently, we had, this spring, we had 82 students that were involved in virtual instruction. That number fluctuated a little bit. We had several students who returned to in-person because they found that virtual instruction was not best suited for them. So I just want to bring that to the board for any discussion or questions and how we plan to proceed, given the fact that we still do not have a budget from the state of Virginia.
Comments or questions from the board? Vice Chair Stevens.
What kind of interest did we have? Did we have a good bit of parent interest for the 2022-23 school year?
We did not advertise that we were going to be offering it, so we've had several inquiries at individual schools, but I personally have had one parent reach out with regards to it. The schools have had some, but it has not been, we have not had, to my knowledge, 82 families reaching out to say, are we going to continue?
Okay, so if we have a family that reaches out because there's a medical need, how would we present or how would we offer virtual instruction?
So what we would do is if we had a family that reached out, assuming that they reached out before the deadline that closes of Virtual Virginia, if they provide us with medical documentation, we would go ahead and enroll them in virtual instruction.
Okay. Would it be instruction delivered by our teachers or?
It would be instruction delivered by Virtual Virginia, which is an outside agency that we would contract with to provide that instruction.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Gefeller, this might be getting way into the weeds, but if a family were to decide that they wanted to do something virtual after July X, would they have to then disenroll and pay it for it themselves? I mean, what exactly are we looking at?
So if a family decided, and this happened this year, if a family decided that they wanted to have virtual instruction for their child,
who's not sick,
then they would have to pay for that. They would have to find a virtual program, or the other option would be to homeschool.
Okay.
And we had that happen this year where we had families that either Virtual Virginia filled up and didn't have any spaces because they have to at some point cut off because it affects their staffing as well to find teachers. And so there were, it wasn't a lot, but there were some families that we had to let them know that we could not register them for virtual instruction. We did put them on a wait list in case Virtual Virginia had spots that did open up. And then we also did allow them, we sent out information that they could enroll for the spring semester, but they would either have to find someone to provide that virtual instruction in the fall at their expense or homeschool.
Okay. I know July is early, you know, for people to make decisions, so I just wanted to understand that there's some path.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Hollingsworth?
I'm sorry if I missed it. I understand we have 82 students participating, but how's attendance, how's participation? Has it been productive?
It has been, I would say, child dependent. We have had some students who did not attend regularly, or we had some students that were not being successful in their virtual classes. And in those cases, we reached out, the schools, the administrators or counselors reached out to those families to offer either assistance. In several of those cases, families chose, based on it wasn't a good fit, end up coming back to in-person instruction.
Sorry. One question that just pinged from your conversation. If the students, we enroll the students in virtual Virginia and it's not a good fit and then they come back, are we out that money?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Gefeller, thank you for that update. And I mean, it seems like a reasonable, given the circumstances, it's a reasonable thing to do. So, anything else? All right, thank you very much. Next up is school board member comments. First, oh yeah. Would you like to make a motion? To open up for discussion?
Yep. Chair Seberg, I'd like to make a motion that we open discussion to talk about Juneteenth celebration on June 20th, 2022.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Stevens, second by Mrs. Brooke, that we open discussion for to discuss Juneteenth.
Right.
Excuse me? Makes sense.
Yep.
Yep, for discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Let's have a discussion.
Okay. So the discussion is Juneteenth is this Saturday. It's Sunday, excuse me. It's a federally recognized holiday. And standard when there's a federal holiday, it's recognized or celebrated on, if it falls on a Sunday, it's celebrated, recognized on the Monday. That's what we've got open for discussion, how we would like to address that this year. There are several factors involved. We've got summer school, ESY, sports camp, COVID recovery, ESOL services? ESOL Academy, all of those different things going on this coming week. They've already started. So how to address those while recognizing the holiday. So any discussion?
Mr. Gefeller, can you give us more information about what we need to consider or what this all affects?
Sure. So there are several things that it would impact with students. We have students in the building. Our summer school started yesterday for K-8 students. We have ESY summer school for our special education students. So that would impact. We'd have to either rewrite IEPs or offer additional day to make up that time for students. We have a boys basketball fundamentals that parents paid money to attend. We also have an ESOL Academy, which is for our English language learners at the high school. And then we have what we call Summer School Redemption, which is credit recovery to provide instructions for students that are so that they can potentially graduate at the end of summer. So there are other things that it would impact students that we would have to either decide to make up time or, and we'd have to let families know soon so they can make arrangements. Particularly our summer school is, in-person summer school is grades 2 through 8. So our young elementary students, we'd have to let parents know quickly if we were to make a change to the calendar. I also want to let you know that Juneteenth for next year is already built into the calendar as a holiday. So this will not be an issue for next school year.
Thank you. Mrs. Spall, do you have a comment?
Yes, Chair. Mr. Gefeller, are all of these programs Monday through Friday programs?
No, these programs right now are Monday through Thursday, with the exception of the sports camp. That is in Monday through Friday. The division right now until the middle of July is closed on Fridays. So we our summer schools are Monday through Thursday.
So a follow-up question, it could be appropriate to observe the holiday on a Friday. Would it be possible to give people like comp time so that they could actually use their 8 or 10 hours at another time?
I think anything is possible, but we do not have, there would not be any of our summer school staff would not be they would not be working on Fridays. The only people that would affect would be the teachers, coaches that are running the sports camp, and that's a different
and I think my meaning, though, is just that if they could use 8 hours or 10 hours or however it works out, you know, as they wish another time during the summer, it might scatter some of the other things that we would have to, you know, address.
Yeah. The only consideration there was that there is I believe, a board policy that prevents us from using and from providing comp time. So that would have to be, it would be going against the school board policy with comp time.
Okay. I guess there's a way around that if that's what we chose to do. Okay, thank you.
I just want to say, too, that Monday, the federal government is observing the holiday. State government is observing the holiday. The city of Manassas is observing the holiday on Monday, and many other businesses. I just wanted to state that. What else?
Mr. Gefeller, how about meal distribution? Because we've just started meal distribution for over the summer. How would that be impacted?
We would have to figure out a way to either have a pickup distribution, or we would not provide meals on Monday because our staff would be off.
So, because we've started the meal program where families can come get their meals. Is that every day, or is that once a week?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's every day or if it's once a week. I don't know.
Okay, because in the past we've done it once a week where it was Monday, you would pick everything up for the entire week. It's Monday through Thursday. Thank you. That was just during COVID. I couldn't remember. And then my next question is, for our students who are receiving ESY services, the students with IEPs who have specific time written into their IEPs for extended school year services to address, you know, IEP goal areas, how many IEPs would have to be amended, would you say, approximately?
Mr. Masiak, would you be able to provide that number?
Mr. Masiak's here too. I kind of forgot you were there. I'm sorry, Mr. Masiak. I should know better.
We typically have 35 to 40 students who attend ESY. We would probably try to work with our families and see, in lieu of amending, try to pivot to another day to deliver the 3 hours of service.
Because those are in-person site-based students, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So, because my question is the logistics of that, because you need the teachers, you need the building, you need the students, and I would assume they have busing for site-based ESY?
Yes, we do use transportation. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all of those, that would have to be figured out.
Yes, ma'am.
Very quickly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How big of a burden is that? Because I'm a special education teacher, so in my mind, there's like 36 gears turning at the same time on this.
Well, my team, we would look at it with the special education team, and my hope would be maybe to pivot to the following Monday. That way, none of the staff would lose any pay whatsoever. Transportation we got the best transportation department in the state of Virginia. They always pivot with us. They work really well with us.
Okay, so they're flexible on that?
I would say
Or
right
pivot.
here tonight, yes, they're flexible on it, but
Okay,
if
okay.
not, we'll figure it out.
Okay, because my concern is the burden that's placed because an IEP is a legally binding document.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
So, okay, thank you.
Did receive a text from our wonderful superintendent, Dr. Newman. He did say that camp can still happen on Monday as if it would be open on Friday, as it will be open on Friday when the division is already closed. We can pivot as Brian shared for ESY.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, yes, of course. Okay, great questions to my colleagues, excellent questions. Puts a lot more things in my head than I had thought prior to our meeting today. We just saw a presentation about architects of achievement, and I think the people that this will lots of fantastic positive things if we pivot real quickly and do this for the adults. But we just had a presentation about architects of achievement, and I think this potentially will impact our students negatively. I'm concerned about our students who need to graduate. We have a high graduation number rate we're trying to hit. So I want us to think about that as well, the students. The family, if people have childcare struggles with such a short period of notice, the interruption to our students and their learning, and the transition. I don't know how many children that may have an issue with transitioning back and forth quickly. So I want us to think about our students and how this will impact them. And I'm pleased to hear that it's already on the calendar for next year. And that's all I have. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Mrs. Brooks, do you have a comment?
I'm torn because, yes, we're here to serve our students, we're here to serve our families and our community. And we're thinking about burdens created now. This is about burdens that were there. Burdens that others endured, so.
Thank you.
We got a lot to weigh.
Mr. Hollingsworth.
It is a few months ago we made decisions whether to recognize other faiths and other holidays for other ethnicities. And the issue was whether or not it was going to extend the school year and the structure that we had set forth. In an effort to be as fair and transparent, we're here with the same situation. But it's hard to make these decisions and impact the schedules and inconvenience those. I recognize that. But however, Juneteenth is a private celebration throughout my adult life that we're now sharing with America. And I wish we all look at it with the same reverence as we do Independence Day. So that's my 2 cents.
One more thing, Mr. Chair. If this board does decide to honor Juneteenth, the holiday, we would have to make that decision today and waive second reading, correct? That's correct. Okay.
Chair, I just wanted to share just a little bit, and I'll share more in my comments. But the day known as Juneteenth is a combination of June and the 19th. It's also called Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, Second Independence Day, and Emancipation Day. And it's the oldest known celebration commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. Yet, many of us sitting on the dais, watching on TV, sitting in the audience, didn't know it existed until very recently. So, it's an important holiday, and for some people, it's Second Independence Day. So there's a lot we have to think about as far as how we're serving our families and our children, how we're recognizing who we are and what we stand for. And at the end of the day, they're both equally important. And there's, once again, no good answer. So something like a day off is much, much more than a day off.
I do want to share that I feel awful that we did not recognize this sooner so we could recognize the holiday. We've been planning all year long to not have Monday as a holiday and proceed with student programs. So we're going to need to make a decision, and we do need to decide tonight. Like you mentioned, Ms. Williams, we need to waive second reading. Is someone ready to make a motion?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to observe Juneteenth on June 20th.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Iqbal, seconded by Mrs. Brooks, that the school board of the city of Manassas observe Juneteenth on Monday, June 20th, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes, no.
Motion carries 6-1. Did I get it all? All right. We need to add that in there. Mr. Iqbal, could you amend your motion to say, to include in there and waive second reading? Okay.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to observe Juneteenth on Monday, June 20th, 2022, and waive second reading.
All right, I have a clarification motion from Mr. Iqbal. Did you want to?
Second.
And seconded by Mrs. Brooks, that the school board of the city of Manassas observe Juneteenth holiday on Monday, June 20th, 2022, and waive second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I don't know if I say yes or no. Yes, no.
Okay. Motion carries 6-1. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, school board members' comments. Mr. Iqbal, would you like to start us off?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I don't really have much for tonight. I just want to congratulate our OHS boys soccer yet again on a fantastic season. They've made us all very proud, and I can't wait to see how these students continue to grow both on and off the field. Well done this year, and I hope you guys are as proud of your performance as we are. I also wanted to echo my fellow board members in welcoming Dr. Quesada to the MCPS family. Thank you, Dr. Quesada and Dr. Goldzong, for your presentation tonight, and I can't wait to see our final strategic plan come to fruition. And lastly, I just want to wish everyone a happy Pride Month and Juneteenth this upcoming weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iqbal. Mrs. Spall.
I also will try to be brief with my comments. I do want to recognize the importance of Juneteenth as a national holiday. I was trying to help problem solve, but I absolutely believe that it's an important holiday that we all need to observe in our own ways. I would like to welcome the school board liaisons. I'm always very excited about that program. I wanted to recognize the LGBTQ in our recent strategic plan. You know, I have to, I like that we reiterated that education is a civil right. Our recent grads are always someone that, you know, we want to remember, not just the week that they graduate, and also the retirees for their years of service. Last meeting was a little bit disjointed for me, so I don't know that I really got to say, you know, how proud I am and how much I appreciate all the people that retired and are leaving us, you know, to go on to their own green pastures. I think that's really it. The strategic plan, I am very happy to see that we're looking, you know, at the whole child regarding health, safety, engaged learners, you know, supported and enlightened children of Manassas. So, and also the soccer team, they were they were a joy to watch. I really definitely was very impressed by the way that they worked together and by the way that they represented our school and our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Spall. Mrs. Williams, your comments?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I want to share the excitement of the soccer team. Being at that game was super stressful and exciting all the way to the end. I really thought at the end we were going to pull it out. We really played the better game, I must say. But I'm excited for Mrs. Beebe and Miss Aylin to be up here the end of August to join us. So welcome again. I also want to congratulate all our graduates. What an exciting night that was, and I wish them nothing but the best, and I hope that they go represent their school, OHS, very well. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Mr. Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to, again, congratulate the soccer team. And this past month has been a great month, watching all the award ceremonies and the graduations, just seeing all the success of all our students. I also want to welcome all the new faces to Manassas City Public School. As you can see, it gets a little passionate a little bit, but in a good way. Leadership is tough, okay? And so I just want to say thank you to my peers, and have a good day.
Mrs. Brooks.
Ditto of what everyone has said, and I have nothing I can add because they've said it all.
Thank you. Vice Chair Stevens.
I wanted to speak a little bit on hope and on tragedy tonight. The first is about Juneteenth. 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, slavery still existed across our nation. States still controlled by the Confederacy, rebel states, and slave-owning border states did not recognize this important document. It was not until 2 months after General Robert E. Lee surrendered at Appomattox in 1865 that the 250,000 enslaved people of Texas finally learned they were free. U.S. Major General Gordon Granger issued General Order No. 3, which informed the people of Texas that all enslaved people were now free. Granger commanded the headquarters district of Texas, and his troops had arrived in Galveston the previous day. General Order No. 3 states, "The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. It's important that we always remember that while June 19, 1865 is a significant day, it did not bring about true freedom and equality for people of color in the United States. In fact, Juneteenth was not recognized as a federal holiday until June 17, 2021. It's important that we go into this weekend recognizing and understanding the fight for freedom, equality, and justice for all Americans, because none of us are free until we all are free. And I have to speak on tragedy for just a minute, because I think it touched all of us, because we are all somehow connected to education. The names of certain places, based on the events that occurred there, are forever burned into our collective memory. Columbine, Sandy Hook, Virginia Tech. Sorry, guys. I'm a teacher, I'm a mom, I'm a school board member. My life revolves around education and the safety of our children. My heart broke each and every time I hear about a life lost to gun violence. Each and every alert we got about Uvalde, Texas, broke my heart. Out in the public space and in the virtual world, we debated, discussed, and argued about our freedoms versus our responsibility. Hashtags flew from our fingertips and crying emojis popped up nonstop
as we try to make sense of the gun violence that has become such a part of our daily lives. As teachers, we discuss what we would do if a shooter came into a building. As parents, we discuss whether to keep our children home with each threat we hear of. And as school board members, we discuss how school activities could be impacted by gun violence. We struggle to wrap our brains around the continual, senseless loss of life and wonder where to begin. Sometimes the enormity of it all is overwhelming. But we must start somewhere. That somewhere is with common sense gun legislation. Legislation that recognizes gun ownership as a right guaranteed under the Second Amendment, but that it is also a responsibility. And it is our responsibility to ensure that we do all we can to keep our children safe. It's up to us to do our part. Jenny Dean said, "I've done my part, now you do yours." It's incumbent on us to do everything we can as the adults and the leaders of society to make sure our children are safe at home, in the community, and at school. That's what we're tasked to do, and that's what I ask us all to do. We don't want a Columbine, a Sandy Hook, an Uvalde here in Manassas. Our children are worth so much more than that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Stevens. I just want to take a moment to thank Mrs. Robin Williams for your vote tonight. I know it was a very hard decision, and I know your heart's in the right place because you're looking at it for students. We came to a different conclusion tonight, and that's fine. That's why we have a school board where we have differences of opinions, and we talk it out and we discuss things. This coming week, we will be having a school board retreat. For those of you that don't know what a retreat is, it's a 2-day meeting. But seriously, we are participating in master board training with the Virginia School Board Association. So we'll get some board development done, and we'll have lots of discussions. We'll talk about our new strategic plan, and I'm looking forward to all of that with all of you. So thank you. And with that, I'll accept a motion.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the School Board City of Manassas School Board meeting adjourn.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Stevens, second by Mrs. Spall, that the school board meeting adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.